This episode of Kind of Funny Gamescast is brought to you by Movement Watches. Movement Watches was founded on the belief that style shouldn't break the bank. The watchmaker's goal is to change the way consumers think about fashion by offering high-quality, minimalist products at revolutionary prices. With over 500,000 watches sold to customers in 160-plus countries around the world, Movement Watches has solidified itself as the world's fastest-growing watch company. Greg Miller has his sexy one with the red hands and the black face. Ooh, baby. It looks nice. Movement watches start at just $95. At a department store, you're looking at $400 to $500. Movement figured out that by selling online, they were able to cut out the middleman and retail markup, providing the best possible price. We're talking about classic design, quality construction, and styled minimalism. You know I'm a fan of that. You can get 15% off today with free shipping, free returns by going to movementwatches.com/kinda. That's MVMTwatches.com/kinda. Okay? Join the movement. What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 103 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by the coolest dudes in video games, Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller.
Flag on the play.
Wow.
It's for you.
It's blue. It's a blue.
He didn't like it. He didn't like it at all.
If we threw that at Boise State, you wouldn't be able to see it on the field. All the football joke.
The refs are all down doing this, pawing at the field.
Because the field is blue.
Yeah, you'd love Boise State's field.
Really?
Yeah.
They have blue grass?
Yeah.
How do you make blue grass?
It's just turf.
Surf and turf.
Surfing? What?
Yeah. No, it's just turf. It's
Football,
just blue
they play
turf.
football
It's
on-
just blue turf.
Okay.
It's very eye-catching.
It's ridiculous.
Yes.
Some
I
say
appreciate that.
eye-burning, but
I
I
like
like
that a
it.
lot.
I like it a lot as
I'm
well.
a big fan. Kev, can you pull up a picture of this?
Boise State. Jersey State's not a thing.
Jesus Christ. Boise State
Jersey
football field. That's all you got to put in there. You'll find it. You'll find it right away.
I'm excited about this.
When are
It
they
does
bringing
sound
back
something I'd like.
NCAA football? I feel like the NCAA has gotten better
Someone
about
was
this
just
player
posting about
profile.
this
That's because
recently
we miss it. We
on
all miss
Twitter.
it.
After in a few years when the athletes start getting paid,
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
and they own their likenesses and stuff, I think
Yeah.
that EA will get back into the game.
Do you
and
think
there'll be
that's
a lot
I
of-
really hope they do.
An inevitable future?
There it is.
Oh, I
yeah,
like that
100%.
a lot. I don't like blue and orange, though. That combo has never been
Can
nice.
you just take, I mean, they gave you something. Isn't that better than nothing? Aren't you sick of seeing green fields everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, I really do appreciate the blue.
And then when they put on their blue jerseys and play on it there in camouflage.
Oh my God.
No
I
one can
like
see
that
it. The
even
TV
more.
camera, the announcer's like, we don't even, this away team. We're
The
waiting
ball
for
is moving down. No, that's where there's a person. The person has the ball. Sorry, I thought a ball was going on its own.
Ladies and gentlemen,
yeah.
this is the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Each and every week we get together to talk about video games and all the things that we love about them. You can get the show early over on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. And this month only, you can also get Kind of Funny Live 2, the full video. If you don't want to, help us out, give $1, because it's only $1 to get Kind of Funny Live 2. I think it's worth it. Do you think it's worth it,
It's
Greg?
worth $1. 3 hours of entertainment,
It's
including
worth the
Cisco
$1.
the dragon. Kevin
The
gets
dragon
engaged.
himself.
Gia is in a Pokemon costume.
She is. Anyways, if you don't want to, you can wait. Kind of Funny Live 2 will come out on February 6th for everybody for free on youtube.com/kindoffunny. And this show will be released for free for everybody on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames next week. Podcast services, all that stuff. Also, another change we made recently, Kind of Funny Morning Show. You can catch that on youtube.com/kindoffunny. We talk about some video game stuff. It's a weird crossover. We're in a point where it's just like, I don't know. Where the fuck do we put things?
Sure.
There's no rhyme or reason.
Yeah. That's
But we
just
do
insanity. The show's
Is
just
Symphony of the Night
insanity.
one new?
No, it's not new.
No?
I haven't updated it yet. I'm planning a big 2017
I don't
update.
remember seeing that.
'Cause
That's an awesome
he's been
one.
releasing some hotness.
Yeah?
Orioto.
Who is this again? Yeah.
Orioto. You should go check him out on DeviantArt and all of his Facebook page and all that stuff. ORIOTO.
It's in the description.
Yeah, it's in the description always. There's a lower third.
Now, if he's over at DeviantArt, how many times has he drawn
Sonic the Hedgehog.
and Tails making out?
As you've seen in this art, there's a lot of Sonic and Tails, but I don't know. There's no making out that I've seen on his
Sonic
account.
and Tails and cornholing. That's what they should make.
Cornholing.
Yeah.
That sounds nasty. What
It
you been
is.
playing, Greg?
A lot of stuff. Well, it's funny. In the past week, I've played a lot of stuff and then started playing an old game and focusing on that. I gave a brief rundown on PS I Love You or whatever. The Yakuza preview has lifted, so I'll start there and give you new information. I played Yakuza 0 the first night I got it. What had happened is got Gravity Rush 2, played that for a night. The next day, Yakuza 0 came in, played that for the night. The next day, I got distracted by something else, and then the weekend came, and blah, blah, blah. We'll get to that in a second, though. Yakuza 0, though, more Yakuza, the prequel to the Yakuza story we know and stuff. This is something I mentioned last week when we were talking about open world fatigue. and the fact that some open worlds we talk about, like why is it even like this? What is it really drawing? That's always been my thing with Yakuza games. Again, I reviewed them all the time for IGN. I enjoy a good Yakuza game, of course. You know, are you familiar with the series?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, cool. So it's like very loosely the Japanese GTA. Not nearly that big of an open world, but that's the idea of let's play through this gangster Yakuza mafia story or whatever, run around their red light district. This one's set in 1989, so it's a bit of a callback. There's different things going on in there. But it is the same idea of, cool, I can go into this shop and buy this, soup or whatever to keep on me to use as a healing item. But I can also just go into the arcades and play games. I can go in and play the UFO catcher game.
You love that game.
I do love the UFO.
favorite game.
And that's the thing. I'm continuing to play it in Yakuza because I'm like, I should have gotten that item. I don't like how this is, and then you tip it over. It's just like a real UFO catcher game. You tip something over, you're playing it to get it into the right spot.
Yeah.
And then at any time when you've collected all the prizes, you can go over and tell the people it's time to change out the prizes, and they change out the prizes. You go back and play some more.
That sounds very detailed.
Yeah. And they got a couple of classic Sega stuff, arcade games in there to play and stuff. But it's the same thing of just like, if you want to play a Yakuza game and just mainline that story, you can and go through it. And what I think usually Yakuza games excel is that it's still an interesting story. It is this, we're playing there as Kazuma again, this time before he actually goes anywhere, and this whole family that he's in and with his clan and how he's going to move up to eventually become a big deal and then go off to an orphanage. Spoiler alert for what happens in the rest of the Yakuza games. But interesting. I like the characters. I like where it's going. There's this air of mystery. It's like, of why what's happening. The story is happening to him and what's going on. And, I beat up a guy and he cut off his own finger, and a sense of honor. I'm like, yeah, that's fucking cool. That's what Yakuza is great at, right? Because Yakuza is usually this, and it always is, I guess, an interesting story that feels not grounded, obviously, but all the cutscenes of you interacting with the other, Yakuza bosses and the family members and explaining all the intricacies of how it all ties together. That always seems grounded in the way you talk, and then you just walk through streets and beat the fuck out of everyone, and like that's the whole thing of just like, it's got a really in-depth skill tree and unlockable system you're going through to get new moves if you want, or more health or more power this way to warm up your heat gauge faster, which allows you to do special moves and things. But they also have the last Yakuza game I remember playing was the zombie one I always talk about, and before that there was the other one, which must have been the 6 is the next one that's coming out here, so it would have been 5. I'm rusty on all my numbers, but it's the one where we jumped around the different characters. There was of course like the loan shark with the secretary that he hated, and then she got hot and he liked her a lot, and I was like, oof, that's not a
Japanese
that's not a storyline you're allowed to do. But you jumped around between characters. This one set from Kaz's perspective, who I knew from my earlier Yakuza gameplay experiences, and rather than to still spice it up, it seems you can switch your fighting stance from brawler, which is very anchored, and you're giving out heavy slow blows, to you learn a new stance, and you're able to jump around, be super fast, and dodge around and kick the shit out of everybody, and use them differently to fight different bosses and do different things like that. And that's where Yakuza is always very interesting, is that it is it's like a Dynasty Warriors in a lot of ways, mixed in with this then really good story of the fact that it is like, okay, cool, like you need to get from this one side of the red light district to this other side to catch a cab to continue the story. But on the way, if you just want to keep going down different alleyways, you're going to continue to find people like street punks or dudes dressed in black who just want to beat the fuck out of you. And you do that, and you earn money, and you earn your XP that you can then go and spend stuff. It's a fun game. It is the same thing I've talked about a lot in the past with Yakuza, though, where I like Yakuza. I enjoy a good Yakuza game, and this is where I think it's similar to a Dynasty Warriors. You know what you're getting. Like, you're playing through it, I'm like, oh, cool, the fighting styles are different. I don't remember this from previous. I'm pretty sure this is a new addition to this one. It gets rusty, though, because, again, I've played so many of them.
So, I mean, not holding you to this, because I'm sure you might not know all the information, but at PSX, last year, they announced Yakuza 0 and Yakuza 6.
Right.
Is 0 a new game, or is this a port of an old game?
Yakuza 0, to what I understand, is a new game. The thing about it, of course, is that it's been out in Japan forever. Not forever, but like a year and a half or whatever. Exactly. Here it is in America. And I'm pretty sure that's now what's happening with 6 as well, where 6 is out in Japan. Because when I tweeted, hey, I got Yakuza 0, I can't tell you about it, but I'm excited to play it, some kid's like, I already got Yakuza 6, because he got the imported version, is playing that. And so that's usually what happens here, which makes it all the more cumbersome, because I remember going to TGS and getting my photo taken on the Yakuza throne with like the hostess girls there and stuff, but that was promoting the Yakuza that was coming out there in a second, which we were like 1 or 2 behind at the time. So it's all fucking tiddlywinks on the floor, but for me, it's whatever. But what I was driving at before, it's more Yakuza. I feel like they are doing this different thing where usually it's always cutscenes and, you know, telling you the story and you're going through it and okay, cool. They're doing this thing that's new to me. I think it's new to this must be the introduction of the series of putting faces on the screen or having like still things like people moving behind you or whatever, but then just having text on the screen and it's like, okay, I'm fine with that. Whereas I don't need an animated cutscene, but it at first was a jarring thing to me, and I don't know if it's just a callback.
Like Fire Emblem style stuff.
I'm not familiar enough with Fire Emblem.
It's just like an anime-esque picture and
it's
then
not
text and for the conversation.
Similar to that. It's almost like it's in engine.
Persona does it too. Persona 4.
Sure, not to that degree. Okay. No. But like having you know, from the game, like him just standing there, but his mouth not moving, and you're just cutting forward. It's fine. But it was when I jumped into it, not knowing too much about Yakuza 0. I know it's a prequel. I know this. I was like, oh, is this their version of not a budget Yakuza, but like, here's how we'll get it out faster to continue working on Yakuza 6 to make the real thing and whatever. All that said, it's more Yakuza. If you're in the mood for Yakuza, you know what you're getting into. It's just like every other Yakuza. I feel like I enjoy it. I'm going to play it more. But it's one of those, I've done this weird thing this past week of games, just jumping around, where the night before I started Gravity Rush 2, reviews are up now, doing really well critically, which is great for them. For me, with Gravity Rush 2, it was a very similar thing of jumped in, started using the powers. I was happy to be back with Kat. I was happy I forget her, the reporter from the first game who now like her sidekick or whatever. I was like, oh, that guy again. Oh yeah, it was like fun to catch up with these characters that I hadn't thought much about since I played it and reviewed it on Vita. Jump back into that world. I thought it was a clever thing of like, I was like, what are we doing? Why is this happening? They had a cool reveal in the beginning and then she doesn't have her powers and that's how we're going to get them back and da-da-da. And going through that and playing that, I'm like, oh, fuck, Gravity Rush. This is fun. I enjoy Gravity Rush, but it is the same thing of like,
turn your world upside down.
This is Gravity. More thing of, this is Gravity Rush. This is exactly what I expected. As I was talking about on PS I Love You XOXO, haven't gotten to the new powers which make you lighter and make you heavier, stuff like that. Had played that at PSX. But in terms of the storyline, I think I'm in chapter 2, but I was running around doing a bunch of the side quests. But it is the same thing. I'm just like, cool. I don't feel like this is a quantum leap, and on that level, then it's not scratching me, like pulling me back into it, making me want to play it over and over again. And so then got to the weekend. And like I said, neither of those games were tugging me, but I had 2064 read-only memories on my XMB or whatever you want to call it now for my live area for PS4. I was like, oh, fuck, right, this game. Jumped into that and played that for all of Saturday. Halfway through the game, it's 6 chapters. I think I'm 3 chapters through, a little bit more maybe. And really dig it. Really, really dig it. I was talking to Colin about it on PS I Love You of like, is it a visual novel? Is it an adventure? Or is it a point-and-click adventure game? It's somewhere in between all of that. You know what I mean? But really interesting story so far. I think it works really well for us because it's set in Neo San Francisco. It's 2064. We're in San Francisco, so I'm a journalist in the outer sunset, and I go to the Richmond and do stuff. Yeah, and there's news report because like
is Gordo's there?
No, I haven't seen it yet. It's not like free roam, so it's not that. The developer, I believe, he lives in San Francisco now, so I assume it's just like us where there'd be all these references. But references to what the 49ers and their quest for 10 and like how they're, playing against the Japanese guys and how it's expanded that way.
Yeah.
And it is this thing of what we always end up talking about, the story at its core is you're in your apartment and then in the middle of the night, this robot comes in, this AI that was made by your friend that you've fallen out of contact with, and someone just broke into his house and the robot ran all these things, and this robot is the first robot that is like self-aware and is learning on its own, and this is we've hit that point. It's called Turing, like the Turing test or whatever. And so it's like, okay, cool, let's go out and figure it out, what's wrong with your creator. And then it becomes like this investigative game of going through and talking to different people and trying to figure out how to get into this area to do this thing, to do that or whatever. But
what type of game is it? Like an adventure game? Or?
Yeah, see that we're back to that where like the best way I think to describe the gameplay is describe what you're looking at the entire time. And so when the screen, imagine it's a black screen, and then like up in the top half of the screen, you have this little postage stamp that is like, it's either the character that's talking to you, like a close-up of them, or it'll be like, your items, your menu, whatever you want to click through and do this. And then the other part is this long rectangle that takes up the rest of the screen on that top half of the screen. And that's showing you the scene of where you're at. So like when you're in your apartment, you don't ever see yourself. You never see your character. It's all from not even first person. You're looking at your apartment, your bed's there, your door's there, your computer's there, blah, blah, blah. The AI bot's there talking just there, but then close up in the thing. And then you have the dialogue of them pop up. It's all voiced their dialogue. So like Melissa Hutchinson is the Clem from Walking Dead. She's the robot Turing, and like a whole bunch of our other friends, like Austin Creed's in there and stuff. Up, down, down.
Oh, cool.
Their text pops up below that, but you hear it, and then when it's time, you have your response to pick what you want to say. So it is this visual novel adventure game of whatever, but it's not adventure game like Walking Dead is, where I feel like I'm making choices that are drastically influencing the game, nor is it an adventure game where I feel like it's, you know, something Tim Schafer would do of like, how does this water bottle turn off the light? Like, it's not that kind of thing. There's no puzzle I've hit where it's like, there's no puzzles, I don't think. It's just an adventure that's unfolding with you in it, and you're in the seat driving, making your choices.
A walking simulator adventure game.
Sure, but no walking involved.
Simulator adventure game.
Whatever you want to call it, the story's cool and intriguing. This is definitely a game I'm going to get back to beat and actually see all the way through.
Cool.
But what happened is Sunday I woke up and I was under the weather. And I was like, I don't feel that great. I just want to stay under the covers. As much as I like read-only memories, it is a game that I feel like I'm all in. It's an experience of like, I want to just give this my attention and not get distracted. I needed something more throwaway, more disposable. And I was like, oh, you know what I want to do? I want to play a Lego game. And I thought about Lego Dimensions. And I was like, no, I'd rather earn a platinum. I'd rather get more trophies out of this. And all the Dimensions packs just have bronzes. So it's like, whatever. So what I remembered is that I never ever back when the PlayStation 4 came out, I never platinum Lego Marvel Superheroes, the original. Now I platinum Avengers. I'm in Lego Marvel Avengers, and so I went back, grabbed that, or downloaded it again, jumped in and picked up my save, and I just beat that. And so last couple nights, that's what I've been doing, sitting there, very DC Universe Online, very Skyrim, where I'm just sitting there with podcasts on the iPad. I listened to a whole bunch of Always Open last night from Barbara. Yeah. Listen to Always Open and just going through and just fucking picking up studs and unlocking characters and doing all that stuff. And
you live a thrilling life, Greg.
I know, right? And that's the thing, right? Of just like, I was going back and forth of like, well, what do I want to do? And I'm like, Gravity Rush is fun. Yakuza's fun. I don't feel like that right now. And same thing with like Real Memories, right? I don't feel like that much of a commitment to it. I do feel like just fucking being brain dead. We put in all this work these last couple of days, as we always do, and you work yourself to your bone, and you get home and it's like, I cook, and then it's like, well, cool. I don't want to, real quick, shout out, as Colin would say, Nashville this season, holy shit, are they killing it on CMT. I'll tell you what, 3 episodes are out. I'm through the first 2. The camera moves.
Yeah.
You can tell they got new showrunners in there. They're doing different things with the cameras, the storylines, the songs, of course, off the chart, amazing. But I watch that while I eat, and then it's like, oh, I want to play something. I want to do something. And it's like, all right, fine. I don't feel like
plots.
Yeah, I'll get in there and I'll make some more progress on this Lego Dimension games, chip away at that. And then today, of course, they put up this video about DC Universe Online, that they now are doing it for their 6th anniversary, that you can jump in, and similar to how Destiny and like it would let you jump to whatever level, or 25, whenever it was, so you could play that content. They're now doing a thing where you can get in there and get your combat rating immediately up to 100. And I have no idea what I left my combat rating at when I was playing as Taylor Swift, but I don't think I was at 100 yet. So I'm going to jump in there tonight and fuck around with that.
Okay.
What have you been playing, Colin?
Just more Tomb Raider. I'm almost to the end. I think the game won't end. But I'm also playing it very meticulously, but it just refuses to end. Shantae, Half Genie Hero, I played extensively on Vita. I'm almost done with it. I actually had to, so I played it, it was wildcard weekend in the NFL last weekend, so Vita is obviously a nice companion to that, especially considering all 4 games were fucking atrocious. Final Fantasy VI shout out in the background. But to me, this was the game I needed at the time, and for people that don't know, it's a Way Forward game. Way Forward, obviously very established at this point, old school studio. Yacht Club, which did Shovel Knight, spun off from them. You guys might know them, but they've done a bunch of old school games. And Shantae actually has pretty deep heritage in Game Boy handhelds or Nintendo handhelds. And so I played it. It's kind of a pseudo Metroidvania. It's basically like what's a good example? It's kind of like Mega Man X, actually, where you go to a stage, there's things you can't access in that stage, yet you leave the stage, you go to the next stage or do something else, and you go back to the stage later and get it. So it's not like an open world like Symphony of the Night. It's a scattered world, but really, really good. I said on PS I Love You, and I must say again as a mea culpa that I said it's a 2.5D game, which aesthetically to me is not very pleasing usually. And in the very brief time I had played it before, I had spoken about it a couple episodes of PS I Love You ago. I said that I didn't really like it, and I think I was in terms of its aesthetic, and I was completely wrong about that, especially with the characters. Like Shantae herself is an amazing character, but all of the ancillary characters, the beautiful animations in the game. The gameplay is not very difficult. It reminds me of Shovel Knight in that regard, where my one complaint about Shovel Knight was that when Yacht Club put that game out was just wasn't hard enough. And I feel that way with Way Forward and Shantae. I think they could have made the game way harder.
But is Shantae comparably hard to?
Yeah, I would say so. In that, like, you almost never. I mean, at least for me, I don't really die. I think Shantae's easier than Shovel Knight. So I wish I could have used a little bit more of a challenge. There are other modes that you unlock, and I assume that will be something that comes to fruition. So I'm almost at the very end of the game, and in fact, I really wanted to jump into it on Monday. At night I was there, and I'm like, I only have an hour or so of the game left, if that. I'm collecting everything as well, all the items. So I'm almost, I have like, I don't know, like 95% of the items, and there's only one stage left. And then I'm like, you know what, I'm going to save this for this weekend when I become one with the living room and one with the couch for divisional playoff games in the NFL. And having the Vita as a companion will be very good. And so I'm going to save it for that. And then there's a couple speed running options that I'd like to investigate in the game this weekend. Maybe one of them, you have to beat the game in about 4 hours with everything, and you have to beat the game in 2 hours with nothing to get the last trophies. And otherwise, I think, so it's a possible platinum. But we'll see how that all works out. And then I got Tales of... what are you going to...
I want to real quick just jump in to give a shout out to Read Only Memories. Remote play works really well with it since there's no timing bar like a Walking Dead thing. So that's what I was doing when I was watching football with you on Saturday.
Tales of Berseria I got. It's the new Tales game. Obviously, we get a Tales game every 12 to 18 months in the United States and have for some time. I'm a huge Tales fan for people that don't know. And I was surprised when I tweeted out that I got it and I was excited. People were like, I'm surprised that you're a Tales fan. I'm like, oh, I've been a Tales fan for a very, very long time. A very vocal Tales fan. So I'm surprised some people don't know that.
You're a bro shooter fan. So there's usually not much crossover.
I was thinking, it was October 1998 when I got it was my 14th birthday when I got Tales of Destiny for my birthday, October 14th, 1998, and fell in love with the franchise. And it's been almost 20 years that I've been playing Tales games, and I'm surprised by that. Destiny is still my favorite. I'm very partial to others like Legendia. Obviously, everyone loves Symphonia. I thought Exilia and Exilia 2 were excellent. Zestiria, which was the one that came out last, was the one that really threw me and a lot of Tales fans off because it just didn't feel right. And it was the only Tales game that I played for a very brief time. I was like, this isn't right to me. There's something off about it. I played it for a few hours and I'm like, this doesn't feel like a Tales game. And that's strange because when I was in Japan playing it before it came out, I was excited about it because I was like, it's more open. But what we found with Zestiria was that it's just empty. It's just, they use the same design philosophy, the same timeline in which to build one of these games. They build these games very quickly. And so it felt very empty and very heartless and very soulless. I also thought the combat system was kind of bad. So getting into Berseria was a little bit of a trepidatious kind of thing for me. But I immediately, after only playing the game for about 90 minutes or so this week, because I was been editing Colin Was Right at night, that it feels like better. It looks like a Tales game. The story is obviously very quirky and strange in Japanese, but interesting, and it's like comfort food for me. I really do feel like Tales and Dragon Quest are the only true AAA or A role-playing series that really stay true to themselves pretty consistently, and so I want to support that as well. And I'll be able to talk about more of that on PS I Love You and Gamescast next week when I have a little bit more experience in it. That game comes out, I think, late January for everyone else. So those are the 3 games I'm playing, and tonight I'm really looking forward to stayed up till 5 a.m. last night editing Colin Was Right, and I'm excited to have tonight open to be able to jump back into Berseria because I really feel like, Final Fantasy 15 didn't really speak to me at all, but it gave me this hankering similar to I Am Setsuna where I'm like, I want to play a big role-playing game and spend 40 or 50 hours with it because it just feels like the thing I want to do. And I'd also like to get it out of the way because we're going to get Resident Evil 7 soon.
Resident Evil.
So that's what I've been playing, and shout out to Tomb Raider, still a great game. Rise of the Tomb Raider, really, really fantastic. Shout out to Shantae, Half Genie Hero, which is available on a bunch of platforms. I'm playing it on Vita. You guys should check that out and support WayForward. And then preliminary shout out to the Tales team and to Namco Bandai for Tales of Berseria.
Tim,
Speaking of Resident Evil, for the first time since E3, I got to do I played the new Resident Evil 7 demo.
oh,
And because I'm not
since E3,
I don't-
okay.
Well, so at E3 they announced it, and then I played it there with VR or whatever. And then since then, I'm a little confused at how they released the demos because it sounds like it's the same demo. They just keep updating it.
yeah.
So
I think when they update it though, they unlock new paths or endings or whatever. I only played it at PSX, and I remember them being like, "Well, you can go home and play it. And there's different ways and different things."
Yeah, eventually. So beginning hour is the one I played now. And originally back in the day, we played the kitchen demo. And the kitchen, it's a cutscene now in beginning hour in the demo. Anyway, it's old news, but I played through this for the first time at home, not PlayStation VR, just using the PS4. And god damn, that game is so scary. I was playing it before Gia got home, so it was just me alone. I'm like, why am I doing this? And I turned the lights off. I was like, I'm gonna do this right.
Hell yeah.
And it was horrifying. But like, I cannot wait for this game to get here for us because it it seems like the type of game that I want Resident Evil to be. I know a lot of people are upset that this doesn't seem like the pure experience that they expect. And I know a lot of other people are burned about it being too actiony. But I think that like there is a middle ground of what the OG Resident Evil fans want. But for me, I don't even think that we need more of that, especially getting the remake constantly remastered, re-upgraded, whatever. Everything. I think that we will always have those games. So I like that this is trying something different, and especially now that PT is no longer a thing. I thought PT was very special, and already playing this demo, it lacked, I think, some of the polish that PT had, but I think it makes up for it in there's more game there.
Sure.
And because especially, and there's also more just variety of environment, because in PT you're literally just going around the hallway over and over and over. With this, just even having stairs and like having that, like going up and down the stairs is like super liberating, and it allows for a lot of fear because it's always going into the doorway and like seeing what's on your left or right. That's the scariest part. But being upstairs and looking down, seeing a stairwell and knowing that there's could be something from that door, or from just down the hall. It's like a whole other level to it that I'm like, man, this is super scary. Can't wait to keep playing it. I'm going to force you to sit next to me as I play because I'm a baby and I cannot play that game fully. But I do enjoy the game's use of the first person perspective to kind of create the scare moments, because they know what you're looking at all times. So when you're going down a ladder, they know that if they put something behind you, it's going to be scary. You know,
sure.
But they also, like a horror movie, like any good horror movie would, they play with those expectations.
100%.
So it's not always something there. And it's. I thought, at least in the demo, it did a really good job of having me not know when the scares were going to be there, and when they were, it was really damn scary. I don't really like the PT-esque. You have to do all this really weird, obscure shit to get the good ending and progress the right way. I got the bad ending and then went on YouTube to the rest of the endings. And I'm like, man, you had to do a lot of complicated shit to get this done. It's kind of adventure game-esque where you're talking about the water bottle and the light.
And that's the thing is, like, when I got the bad ending in my initial playthrough, but then when I finished up, the PR representative was talking to me, and I was like, well, when you replay it, I forget, I'm rusty now, but it's what you don't need to watch the tape to do that. You just know to go to that area and open that door then. And so, like, if you do that, you're cutting it out, which then tells the game that you've played it before, which does this. And
and I'm interested to see how the game differs from the demo. I know a lot of press got to do the first 4 to 5 hours of it a couple weeks ago, and
we were invited.
We ended up not wanting to go because I want to just experience the game. I'm interested because Capcom's saying that this game is going to be a 14 to 16 hour experience. I'm like, I don't know that I need that much of that. So I'm interested because I can't imagine them doing that with this game being that for that long. I imagine it being a bit more linear over that time, which I'm actually okay with. I just don't think that I need all of this super obscure shit for 16 hours.
Sure.
But very excited for it. The demo was super scary, and it's a beautiful game minus the characters. Like, in the demo you see very few people, but like, man, they're ugly as hell. Like, it totally doesn't fit. It takes you out of it.
Maybe those people are just ugly in that universe.
No, but like they're real ugly and shiny, and like I don't think they look. No, it's all bad. But the most important game I played was the Nier Automata demo that's available now on PlayStation 4. If you haven't played it, get that shit right now. It's only 30 minutes. Maybe an hour. I lost track of time. I don't even know, but it wasn't too long. But I've been really excited about that game for a long time. A lot of people have been asking if I played the old ones. Absolutely not. They didn't look interesting to me. They always confused me. I remember reading about them, and it's like, correct me if I'm wrong if you know anything, but Nier was 2 different games on Xbox 360 and PS3. Like, same name, totally different games, totally different characters. Something like that.
Doesn't sound familiar to me,
there's some weird shit that I remember being like, what the fuck? And it also just didn't sound interesting to me. This sounds a lot more easy to wrap my head around. Platinum, it sounds like the good Platinum is working on it. And I like the character designs. It reminds me a lot of PS2 era Onimusha, Devil May Cry type games. And it has the fluidity of a Bayonetta, but without the, at least for me, the added complexities and stuff, or at least you don't need to go that deep with it. So I'm super enjoying it. The super over the top boss fights, like God of War-esque, but just with a different aesthetic. So I'm super into that. I love the mobility of the game and the fact that every like 5 minutes the perspective shifts, and they spent a lot of time with the camera to make sure that you are playing the game and guided in a way that is the most fun at any given moment. So the character 2B has a bunch of swords, and it's kind of like Final Fantasy 15 where the swords are like flying around her and she doesn't need to actually hold them. And then there's this like little sentry robot thing that flies around her and shoots. So it's kind of like Devil May Cry in the sense that at any point you can slice with your sword or shoot with the guns. And if you hold the R1, it's just shooting. It kind of becomes a dual stick shooter. So you can control where the guns are shooting while slicing people up. So they're 1 second it feels like Devil May Cry. 1 minute it feels like bullet hell. Top-down shooter, and the camera adjusts accordingly. So there'll be enemies all around, and they're all robots, so they just like keep responding. It like contextually makes sense, and they shoot you with all these like orbs and stuff, and it really becomes it feels like Resogun in that type of game where it's like, this is fucking awesome. And then there's the added layer of, but it's an action game, and you're running around and doing stuff, and because the mobility feels so good and the controls feel so tight, it's really satisfying to play through. And as you're going through, then the camera will shift from the top-down view over, and all of a sudden becomes like a side-scrolling platformer. And it never feels wrong. Like the controls keep feeling like they're, because the controls are the same, it's just the camera, but the camera never gets in the way. And it kind of reminds me of Super Mario Galaxy 2, the levels where they were the 2D versions of it, you know, where you're going left to right. And there was a little bit of the verticality or the depth to it, but at the end of the day, you're just going up and down or whatever. And then the demo ends with this boss fight that is one of the most fun boss fights I've played in years. And it reminds me of the old school PS2 era titles.
Action games.
I'm saying, I'm comparing it to a lot of games, but everything I'm mentioning is awesome things. So I think that this really is a little bit of this, a little bit of that type of game, but all those things are why I like playing video games.
Sounds awesome.
Super stoked about it. It comes out on March 7th. So hopefully Resident Evil, Horizon, and then that are going to be my trajectory for games.
To lead you into the Switch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Are you going to touch Mass Effect or no?
No.
No. Okay.
I don't really care about Mass Effect. Never have. Never will. Yeah. When's that? March 21st?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's the thing. The most important game I want to tell you guys about that I played is actually an arcade game. Yeah.
What?
Shocking.
Where'd you find an arcade game? What dumpster was this in?
I played this during the break, and I forgot to tell you guys about it when I got back, but it's called Killer Queen. Now, it's a really random, obscure game, and it's a hipster thing where it's just like you hear about it and it's like word of mouth and it just kind of spreads.
Okay.
This is an old game. Came out in 2013, and Kotaku's covered it a long time ago. By no means am I breaking news of this thing, but this shit's fun as hell, and we need to play it.
Okay.
So Killer Queen is a real-time strategy platform video game developed by Josh DeBonis and Nikita Mikros. The world's only 10-player arcade strategy game, 2 teams, each led by a powerful queen, face off to be the first to bring the giant snail god home, fill their hive with nectar, or execute a triple assassination on the enemy queen. So here's the thing. In 2013, first started there in NYU, these guys made this game. And people started like falling in love with it just locally, people there. And they're like, all right, let's get this into a couple more places. And now it's in 23 different locations in America. And it's kind of a word of mouth thing where it's just like people are traveling to go play this game.
Sure.
Luckily, one of the locations is in San Francisco.
Oh, nice.
At this place called Brewcade.
Yeah, I was gonna say I played this. Yeah,
Oh, did you?
I played at a Risk tournament at that bar, and then went and we played that game or whatever. So I
Fucking awesome.
But I don't remember. I remember really not understanding it. To be honest.
So that's the beauty of it. So this game is so unique, and the experience I had playing it was so unique in that it is such a community-driven title where I was out with my friends and we're just drinking and shit.
Did you just run into this game, or did you go looking?
I was out. We had dinner. We were drinking, and then it was like, "Oh, what do you guys want to do next?" And my friend's like, "Oh, there's this like bar arcade. We should go check it out." And he's like, "Actually, they have this game that I keep hearing about called Killer Queen, and it's one of the only locations in America." And I was like, what the? I've never even heard about this. And some guy telling me about a video game. I was like, this is fucking really weird.
Shut up, Colonel.
Yeah. And so it was me, Danny, Vincent, and Curran, and we're just like, let's go check it out and see what's up. And he was talking about it. He's like, yeah, it's like this multiplayer game. We have teams, and people get super serious about it. And I was like, we're gonna go fuck these motherfuckers up, right? So we're feeling real confident. We go down there, we start playing, and we're just like, we're about to wreck shop in these dudes. We saw a group of people playing on the other machine. We're like, oh, fuck these guys.
Yeah.
We got our asses kicked.
Sure.
So
As you'd expect.
badly. So here's what the game is. It's 2 arcade machines, right? And 5 players each. So it's 5 on 5. And the idea is it's $1 for all 10 players to play. So that's the best part about it. It's just like it's super cheap to get in, and you really do need 5 players on each team, or else it's like super unbalanced and not fun at all. But where that adds the fun is that you just start grabbing random motherfuckers around you, like, yo, play with us, right? Because you just need to play 1 round, you get super into this thing. Losers have to pay for the next round. So winners stay on the console all night, right?
Sure.
So we put down $1, get our asses kicked. We play another $1, get our asses kicked. Another $20 later,
Jesus.
we're still getting our asses kicked, and this other team has only paid $2 because we only won once and they played the first time.
Yeah.
And it was just like addicting as all fuck, right? We had no idea what we were doing. By the time we were $20 in, we kind of had an idea of what we were doing. And that is the beauty of this game. Doesn't really explain the rules too well, but as you start playing it more and more, you're like, oh, I get the strategy here. I understand how this all works. You can see it down here. Are you playing it, Kev? It's kind of like...
Yeah, this is the one I played this, yeah.
It's kind of like a Super Smash Brothers-esque map. Played like Towerfall would be played, right?
But strategy.
So the strategy comes in is there's 3 different ways to win at any given moment.
Okay.
So at the bottom, there's a giant snail, all right? Yeah. And it moves really slowly across the bottom of the screen. If you get on the snail, you ride it. And if you get it across your goal, you automatically win. That's one way. But that snail is slow as fuck. And if people come down and kill you, they can get on it and start riding it the other way. So it's classic tug of war. The other way, each team has 1 queen. You're flying around as a queen. The queen has the ability, she has a sword that can kill, and she can strike down, kind of like Link's down A in Smash Bros. You just go straight down, right? So death from above. If you kill the queen 3 times, you win.
Okay.
So the queen's kind of like, it's a protect the queen type thing. Then the other way, if you can go back, Kev, to the game, at the top of the level, the honeycomb looking things you see, the red and the blue, there's 12 little holes that you can go down and get these little purple berries. If you get 12 berries to the top, you win. But then there's these like in the kind of middle, there's like there's doors, right? There's like a triangle of doors. Yeah. If you get a berry and bring it into the door, you upgrade to a warrior. So there's 3 classes: drone, warrior, queen. The drone can pick up berries and ride the snail. The warrior can kill people. And then the queen there's only 1 queen, right?
Gotcha.
So there's the strategy there of if you're a warrior, you can't pick up the berries and you can't ride the snail. So the only way you can win is attack the queen. But if you're a drone, you can't attack, but you can only bring the berries up or ride the snail. When there's only 5 players on each team and everyone's trying to do a different goal, it gets fucking intense. And it gets super crazy because people will start camping up at the honeycomb area. So these drones coming up and there's just a warrior up there fucking massacring these motherfuckers. You have unlimited lives, except for the queen. And it was the most fun I've had with a video game in so long.
Wow.
Where we played for forever. We were also drunk. And that's the beauty of this. You're just drunk at a bar, a bunch of people having fun. So pulling random people on and just be like, yo, play with us. We need a fifth. Is just the most fun part.
For me, how big is the machine? Is it like X-Men Arcade where I'm all shoved in, or is it like we're spread out and like?
It's a bigger X-Men Arcade is the like 4x3 version. Yeah. This is a 16x9, so you're getting a bit more space, but not too much. You are still right up on everyone's shit, but you're right next to the other team. So there's a lot of shit talking going on, which is like even more fun. Sure. But what's cool is as we were playing, because we only had 4 guys, so we continuously had to grab up this table next to us. We kept grabbing people. And when we walked away from the system, the whole table just got up and started playing. That's fun. So it really is kind of one of those things where you learn from the people around you, and the team next to us that was destroying us started giving us like hints and tips on how to get better at it, and it was awesome.
We don't need your help.
This is everything with like I was looking into afterwards. There's a whole bunch of Facebook communities and there's tournaments and stuff where people create teams and travel and do it, kind of like adult kickball and dodgeball teams. But this one, it's not lame,
video games,
not lame as fuck.
Yeah, you don't have to sweat.
I'm absolutely in love with it. I think we need to go down to this place, do a let's play. It was thrilling. It's absolutely cool. And whenever someone wins from the snail, it's like the most satisfying thing ever.
Okay.
Because it's just like, that's so insulting because that thing's so slow. But I love how the game kind of shifts because everybody's just trying to kill the queen. There's always some sneaky bastard trying to get all the honeycomb things. The snail is just like the thing no one worries about until it gets about 2/3 across the screen. Then it's like, everyone stop what the fuck you're doing and get that goddamn snail.
We got to kill the snail.
We got a snail situation. So anyways, Killer Queen. Check out Killer Queen Game on Twitter. You can find out where you can locate an arcade near you that has one. Surprisingly well varied across America. There's like not too many in California, not too many in New York, and then each state kind of has one. So it's
interesting.
Pretty nice. Pretty nice. You should definitely check that shit out. Next topic. The future of Xbox. This comes hot off the trails of Scalebound being canceled. Microsoft came out with a statement. After careful deliberation, Microsoft Studios has come to the decision to end production for Scalebound. We're working hard to deliver an amazing lineup of games to our fans this year, including Halo Wars 2, Crackdown 3, State of Decay 2, Sea of Thieves, and other great experiences. What are your thoughts?
Surprising. I don't know. It's one of those, this is what we're talking about earlier with Platinum, right? And the fact that Platinum, I remember when they were just the darlings. They could do no wrong. These are the people who gave you Vanquish. Everything they're going to do is going to be fucking awesome. And then there started being the problems and the risky flight pattern. And then it was the licensed games. It was Korra. It was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. As you point out, Transformers was fun. But there were all of a sudden like, whoa. And there was also that thing, I think Colin, brought it up and everybody brought it up. It's just like, well, how many games are these people working on? It's a small studio and they're working on how many games? They're doing so much, and like even near they're working with this in collaboration with, but
Square Enix.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many different things going on that I would obviously seeing when they debuted Scalebound, I was like, that doesn't look like a game for me. And then when they showed gameplay of Scalebound, and we were all like, this isn't running that well. Why is it running like this? And doesn't look that fun. It was never a game I was hanging my hat on or waiting for with bated breath or really thinking about all that much. But I understand when we, it's the other side of the aisle, right? Whereas Colin and I know so much about the PlayStation exclusives. I know there's, your McCaffreys and everybody else, Xbox fans who know so much about it. It was one I wasn't thinking about. And if you were to come to me and be like, hey, this game's in a lot of trouble and they've delayed it, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah. But to have them come out and be like, we're canceling this game. Like, it's not even worth anybody's time. It's like, whoa, that's somewhat unusual. We don't see that often.
Not only unusual, I feel like this is unheard of. Like, can you think of any example, Colin, of a game that...
This is the third Xbox One exclusive that's been canceled this generation.
But I mean, in terms of a game that's been shown at multiple E3 conferences and multiple, not even just E3, like there was that the demo at Paris Games Week, right?
Yeah.
Last year. Like, I think this is the most we've seen of a game from...
You're talking about a big
AAA game from a presentation standpoint of you get the demos during the E3 conference, and then you get an actual gameplay demonstration of it at some other point.
Yeah, I mean, it is unusual. I mean, the big takeaway for me is this seems to be this is a twofold problem. It's not unusual. We talked about exclusives every once in a while getting their plugs pulled and sometimes surviving to see another day in another way. And we talked about with PlayStation, specifically with Remember Me, which people might remember as a Don't Nod game, the French studio that made Life is Strange later on. They made this game called Remember Me. It was supposed to be a PlayStation 3 exclusive. Sony pulled the plug on it, and Capcom ended up picking it up, finishing it, and then putting it out. And we're glad that happened, even though it was a very mediocre game. I got the Platinum Trophy in it. But even though very mediocre game, some interesting ideas there. And then we got Life is Strange, which is a bona fide hit, and we'll get a second season of that, I'm sure.
Now, is that a Platinum you're proud of, or is that just one?
No, I'm proud of that. I mean, I enjoyed it. It was just one playthrough. I wanted to play the game anyway. And then the second example more recently is Rhyme, which was a Tequila Works game. It's a Spanish studio. Sony invested a lot of money in, showed it at Gamescom, promoted it in many sizzle reels, and it shows, and then pulled the plug on that. And we found out recently that it's going to come to Switch and Xbox One and PS4 this year, apparently. The two-pronged issue with this particular cancellation is that Microsoft is clearly asleep at the wheel with their exclusives. This is the third one now that's been canceled on Xbox One.
What was the other one? The Dust game?
Phantom Dust and Fable. You know, like they were both just, you know, the plugs were pulled on both of them. And this is also clearly a problem. And I was sounding the klaxon for this very early and very often with Platinum, that clearly something was going on with the studio. And we can focus on both of those things. Microsoft's, for people that don't understand the way it works, when an external studio, and note that all the cancellations comes from outside of Microsoft Studios. They're all second-party relationships that they have. A studio is given the opportunity or the task of you know, making a game. So in this example, Platinum Games and Microsoft get together. Microsoft's like, we're going to give you X amount of tens and tens of millions of dollars, and you're going to make this game for us. It's going to be proprietary to us. We will own the IP. We will own the game itself, and you will make it. And you will reach these milestones and these deliverables over the years. And in return, the studio makes that game for the publisher. And I've seen that relationship, as Greg has, work out many times with many different people. I'm very close with Insomniac. That was their entire relationship with Sony, and later on with Microsoft with Sunset Overdrive. Because this is the third game that's had its plug pulled in what seems like a year and a half, maybe, with Fable Legends and with Phantom Dust being the other two, someone's asleep at the switch at Microsoft. Like that can't be stressed enough that they're spending considerable amounts of money on these games. Now you can say like they didn't spend too much on Phantom Dust, which was made by a somewhat obscure Florida-based studio, and you can say that they pulled Lionhead and shut them down. And I guess actually that's not true. I want to back up. Lionhead was a first-party studio, so this Fable was a first-party game. So I correct myself there. They pulled the plug on these well into development. Scalebound has been in development for 3.5 or 4 years. So they spent, it's not inconceivable to assume that they spent $50 million more than that on the game, probably, including exhibiting it, bringing people to these shows, showing it off. I mean, there's a lot of sunken costs when you make a game like this. That game was so fucked that far into development, 4 years into development, that they were like, we can't make this game what it's supposed to be, which is a catastrophic problem for Microsoft's ability to be able to govern what's going on with these games, similar to what I think Sony's kind of lack of ability to govern with Rime and with Tequila Works. But the real canary in the coal mine is what's going on with Platinum Games, and we've known this for a long time. Platinum Games is spread way too thin. They are mercenaries, and they've turned themselves into this guns for hire situation where they just seem to be taking work from anyone. Meanwhile, the studio isn't that big at all, and more than half of them, apparently, according to what I was reading, were working on Scalebound. It's a major problem when they got all their funding pulled, and now you're going to have a situation where they need to get workers. They're going to have layoffs there, which is pretty uncommon for Japanese companies, you know, in a society that's honor bound, in which they have things like what they call window facing jobs, which is when they don't want to get rid of an old person or a person that's not really doing their work. They just shove them away until they retire. It's an interesting conundrum that they find themselves in, but the trajectory of them from their work on Wii and then, you know, kind of moving over to even Anarchy Reigns and all these games that people were like, well, these are interesting kind of, or Max Anarchy was called here, the kind of interesting games, Vanquish, obviously, and then into kind of the weird Nintendo relationship they had where they made like the Wonderful 101, but no one played it. And then
But see, that's the problem though, is that even then there's not any consistency. And I feel like it's with such a small team, it doesn't make any logical sense from an outsider's point of view of why certain games are good and why some were bad when it was the same directors and top level teams working on them. Like Wonderful 101, despite people not playing it because it was so close to a launch game for Wii U, which we understand that story. Great game. Bayonetta 2, great game. Star Fox Zero, fucking horrible game. So I'm like, what's going on there? And then with the license stuff, Korra, garbage. Well, Transformers Devastation, awesome. Ninja Turtles, fucking garbage.
Yeah, and pulled recently from the store, so it's already gone. Like that's the craziest thing. And I'm sure there's licensing issues there as well. This is what happens when you know, in my mind, you talk about a studio like Insomniac, which has always been independent, but had cultivated this relationship with one publisher in order to make a series of games, whether it's Resistance, whether it's Ratchet, Spyro back in the day. And they cultivate this thing, and they have some sort of manageable goal and manageable size and manageable kind of expectations, and then they kind of start getting into bed with other people, like they're in bed with Oculus a little bit, they were in bed with Microsoft, although that didn't seem to work out too well with Sunset Overdrive from a commercial standpoint. These guys are in bed with everyone. And you have to remember that this takes internal kind of management skill to do something like this. So when you're a studio of like a couple hundred people and you like have a relationship with I mean, this is literally the list, the gamut of what the studio has published in the last 5 years. You have a publishing relationship with Nintendo. You have a publishing relationship with Sega. You have a publishing relationship with Activision. You have a publishing relationship with Microsoft. You have a publishing relationship with Square Enix. All of them at the same time. It's just not manageable. Like, you can't keep making these games. And that's why, like, you see these two games kind of coming to fruition at the same time internally in Square Enix's kind of cultivated Nier Automata and Microsoft's cultivated Scalebound, and they're two totally different experiences. And Microsoft's probably looking at Square and their relationship with them and Nier and being like, what the fuck? You know, like, why is this game looks like it's going to be an 8+ on Metacritic and is going to be a darling and it's a PS4 exclusive? You guys worked on this game for 4 years and fucked us.
And it was like a flagship title too. Right. I think that's the big difference.
This is people really are, I think, are not sweeping this under the rug, but not, you can't overplay like how big of a deal this is and how Platinum is really taking a hit. Also, Kamiya himself was working on Scalebound. That was his baby. I mean, if you read about Scalebound, this was a game that they had embryonically before they even went and released Mad World and all that, whatever the fuck early games they were releasing. This was an idea they had a long time ago that they like spilt blood, sweat, and tears into and couldn't make it work. And the interesting thing from the Microsoft perspective to me is they're again trying to have relationships with Japanese developers and publishers, and I respect that, but it's not working. It didn't work in the Xbox 360 era, even though they got some good games out of it. I know people like Blue Dragon, et cetera, and so on, but at the same time, like, there's all these failures, like these abject, just ridiculous, like Infinite on Discovery, and all these games are just like, why are you doing this? And they're doing it again with Scalebound, and they just got fucked again, you know? And the crazy thing is that there's no endemic Japanese audience for Xbox One, so there's not gonna be any clamoring in their home country for them to recover this game or whatever. The only interesting thing that can come out of this is some sort of postmortem in which we understand how both sides just abjectly failed at the mission and how Microsoft let this go on for so long. Because, you know, when you sign a contract with a publisher and you're a developer, there's money given based on you reaching certain goals, and they'll be like, we'll give you $20 million or $10 million when you give us the alpha build and when you do this, this, and this. And how long did this relationship go on? Because the game was so important and Platinum is so big and Microsoft has so much money to sink. You have to wonder how long this game just wasn't working before they were like, finally, we can't do this anymore. Because Phantom Dust, for instance, was a different situation. They invested very little money in that game and pulled the plug after a little while. You have to assume this was going on and on and on and on before finally they rectified the situation, at least from their perspective. And to Greg's point, the game, there's two things about Scalebound that I think are interesting and confusing at the same time. Scalebound never looked good to me, and I was always confused why people were excited about it. The game didn't run well. It looked super vanilla, and I think it reminded me of the Order 1886 with PlayStation fans, where I'm like, why is anyone excited about this? Because we got one cool little trailer with them hopping out of a fucking carriage, and now everyone's excited about the Order 1886, but look at what they're showing you. Yeah, and then and base it on that, and it was the same kind of thing with Scalebound. The game was running terribly. I didn't hear that much good buzz about it, except for the fact that it was an exclusive. If some random ass publisher was publishing Scalebound across all platforms, no one would have cared about it.
Exactly, and that's something that I even now I'm seeing. I don't think that there was anybody that was looking at the gameplay of it and being like, "This looks great." I think a lot of people
were saying that on the internet. Yeah, they're goofballs.
Back then?
Yeah, when they watched that E3 demo, yeah, totally. That was the thing when we were like, this game doesn't look good. And people were like, why are you talking about it? You're crazy.
I don't know. I guess in my circles, it looked like people were super down on it, except for the fact that they're excited and they're hopeful that these things will change, and blaming the internet stream.
My question to you, Colin, is partly a counterpoint. Do you think, you keep saying that somebody at Microsoft's asleep at the wheel. My question is this proof of them being awake at the wheel, that them waking up to what's happening? I feel like Scalebound is a seed that was planted before Phil Harrison took over in 2014, right? I feel like this would be, this has been in development for a while. This has been a relationship. I would think that the balls to come out and be like, all right, that game isn't developing, this game sucks, we're just going to cut them. Because I feel like it would be that the new blood comes in and takes over. We're Xbox, we're going to make it about gamers. We know some people are excited about Scalebound. Let's see Scalebound. All right, this doesn't seem to be on target. Can you hit this, that, and the other? They hit maybe that milestone, they missed that milestone. Okay, cool. This is fucked up though. You got to get it in shape. They get to that point. All right, well, that's 2 strikes, 3 strikes, whatever the fuck it was. It's over. We're not going to sit here. We're not going to put out a mediocre Xbox game. We are going to sit here and we want our exclusive catalog to sing and to be awesome. And so Phantom Dust, this Fable, it's the same thing of like, all right, cool. We're taking over, and this is the new vision, and this is who we are. Let's see what you got. Okay, no, this isn't matching our vision. We got to fucking dump you. Sorry.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, maybe it was that someone is awake, like you're saying, and someone was asleep at the Switch. But I just don't look at 3 invested, publicly revealed, celebrated games just being canceled and stricken from a first party catalog, or really a second party but exclusive catalog.
Sure.
It's not a good sign, and especially because their output is just way lower. They own way fewer studios. Their second party relationships are way less mature and way fewer in number as well. And so I don't worry too much when Sony goes and cancels Rime or removes Rime. Rime's still coming out, but when they're like, we don't want it anymore. They don't really need it. They're winning. The thing is that Microsoft is losing. They're losing badly, and the console's still selling appreciably, but it's just getting squashed by the competition. And you need games. You need something to put on your console. And they have games that are coming up that I think are going to be bigger than people think. I think that Halo Wars 2, for instance, is going to be way bigger than people think it's going to be. And
especially State of Decay is bigger than we all think.
Especially because Creative Assembly is so fucking good, and the relationship with Sega and the kind of the unique things that Phil and the team over there are kind of pulling with the relationships, kind of the triangular kind of relationships that they're building. I always thought it was very strange, and I think it's very strange still, that one of Sega's studios is making a Microsoft exclusive. It's just you don't see that very often. It's weird. So they are making and they are cultivating this very new and very unique way of looking at things, or at least providing something for content for their PC gamers as well as their Xbox One gamers. But there is a failure at some level on Microsoft's part.
I just wonder if it's the failures in the past, the failures we've seen before. The reason Xbox fucking hard righted and was like, all right, cool, well, this isn't working, we need to correct. I think the same thing with Fable, where it's like Fable, every time we saw that game or saw a trailer or heard somebody talk about it, I'm like, whew, that game doesn't sound good at all. That sounds like a decision you made when, oh man, the multiplayer things are doing real well. We should do more of that. And then everybody, Universal was like, that doesn't look like a game for me. And they're like, well, fuck, nobody wants this. Why even bother putting it out? My big takeaway now, and from the statement you read, I think the most important thing that was said in there, apart from the PR speak that is just nonsense and useless, is the mention of Crackdown. Because what I immediately thought of when this happened, I was like, where's Crackdown? Yeah, we haven't heard about anything about Crackdown.
Like a Crackdown. Where the fuck is Crackdown? Now they reiterated it, and I believe it's going to come out. They used it as a power of the cloud and all this bullshit when Xbox One was newer. But they need more than what's coming out of 343. They need more than what's coming out of Turn 10. They need more than what's coming out of the Coalition.
Undead Labs.
They need more than coming out of Undead Labs. State of Decay and State of Decay 2 are State of Decay 2 is probably gonna be cool. Just like State of Decay, it's not enough. When you have I've very openly and very readily criticized Sony for their lack of output, but in terms of first party exclusives, and one of the pilots of Colin was right, was about this, about how when you really think about everything they've released from their first parties and their intimately held AAA second party relationships, they've really not released almost anything. I mean, you have of any consequence, Killzone, Ratchet, Uncharted, Bloodborne. I mean like that's, and then the console's over 3 years old. The bad news for Microsoft is now everything's ramping up now, because now we look at the schedule as we did on PS I Love You. Gran Turismo and Horizon are coming out this year. I bet you get something like Days Gone or Detroit end of the year, early next year. And you can go listen to PS I Love You. At the end of the next 3 years, Sony's going to have 10 pretty big marquee games, from God of War to Days Gone to Horizon to eventually Death Stranding and The Last of Us 2, which I think are both going to be, I think Last of Us 2 is going to be a very late PS4 game. I think Death Stranding is going to be a PS5 game. But it's a bad time for them to not have their ducks in a row. And that was the disappointing thing when I saw this. I was like, I kind of thought you guys were smarter than this. And to Greg's point, maybe they are really smart by doing this and making the play as opposed to releasing Scalebound at some point. They sunk a bunch of money into it. It's a fucking 5 and it ruins their reputation and it ruins their relationship with Platinum, which I'm sure is already fucked.
Well, now but at the same time, how much longer is Platinum going to be around?
But I don't know, because that's the other thing that really asks. Their shit with Activision's got to be done. Activision seems to be so hit or miss, and they're kind of very... Activision's very money driven, which any publisher is, but they're very openly and overt about that, which is their relationship with Platinum. Nintendo's relationship with Platinum bore no fruit in terms of finances. That sold no units. It doesn't matter if the games were good. It didn't matter because
we'll get more.
Well, maybe. Star Fox was a critical commercial failure. Bayonetta 2 and The Wonderful 101, people liked those games. They didn't sell very well. Their relationship with Sega, with something like Max Anarchy and stuff like that, seemed to be and Vanquish, which was a very short-lived kind of thing. That's gone. They've never really had a first-party relationship with Sony, which is the only one they go with. Square Enix seems like... So I don't know what's going to end up happening with them, but this is a very interesting... This is one of the more interesting stories that happened in a long time. And when Jason Schreier broke this story, and again, I'm going to reiterate, you guys keep talking... Or not you guys, but a lot of people out there keep talking about how Kotaku doesn't do real news on our real website. Once again, broke a news story through Jason. This time, he canceled Scalebound, which I like Patrick Klepek's thing, because he also delayed No Man's Sky back in the day. these are interesting times, and Microsoft has a lot to worry about. And that's why I think that my theory about Scalebound 2 is that maybe it was just canceled or canned because not only wasn't it shaping up or whatever, but I really do think that, and I really do believe in my heart of hearts that that Scorpio is the next Xbox. I still believe that, and so I think that they're just moving on.
And then that I also agree with you. I think that has to be what it is, and I think that E3 will see if we're right about that or not. I think that they have to be announcing a new lineup of games that will support this new thing in a very NX type or Switch type strategy of just like, yo, hey, we were realizing we're fucking up on this front, so we're gonna do great over there. Because when you compare the two, not only on the more AAA first and second party space of the Horizons and all that stuff, even exclusives like Persona and exclusives like Nier, like PlayStation 4 and Yakuza in early 2017 is still so much better than what Xbox has, and it wasn't before. And it's like now looking forward, there is all these games going down the next couple of years with PlayStation that on Xbox, there's not much. So I got a list together from a thread over on NeoGAF of what all the first and second party or first and partner studios are doing over at Microsoft. 343. So we know that they're like helping out with Creative Assembly on Halo Wars 2 and Halo Wars Definitive Edition. Eventually Halo 6, you have to assume. Like it feels about time.
Scorpio game.
Yeah, I would think Scorpio.
Coalition working on Gears 4 DLC and all that stuff. Gears 5 will come out eventually. Rare, Sea of Thieves, rumored to be working on a couple other new IPs. We'll see what happens with that. Mojang, Minecraft. Turn 10, more Forza Horizon 3 support, Forza Motorsport 7 eventually once we get the release date for that and all that. And the last first party studios, Microsoft Casual Games, and that's only Windows 10 stuff. It's not even Xbox One.
What?
Oh, you made a noise.
I was giggling. Just remember that E3 when they came out and like Mojang and we're like, oh, that's how you say it? Like, what?
What else? What else?
I don't know.
I'm saying Mojang. Partner studios, Reagent Games, Crackdown 3, Undead Labs, State of Decay 2, Iron Galaxies continuing to support Killer Instinct. People love that. Flaming Fowl Studios working on Fable Fortune. And then Studio MDHR, Cuphead. Where the fuck you at?
Cuphead, Jesus.
And then there's a note.
That's the next one that's going to disappoint everyone.
That they put on. I hope not, man, but we'll see. Microsoft does not own the IP, but they did fund Studio MDHR to add platforming levels. So that's why the game is taking longer to come out or whatever. So hopefully
and those
that's
the
good
levels
news,
nobody likes, and that's why Cuphead is going to be
that's what I want.
interesting.
I hope that
Everybody wants that, and then people played it, and they're like, whoa, you guys are good at boss battles, maybe not this.
It's bearing the thing with Microsoft, you know, we were talking about Japanese relationships and how they just don't have any. I don't think they have a lot of trust or even acceptance in the Japanese development community. I mean, I think that's obvious. And money spoke very loudly. I mean, that's how they got Tales of Graces as an exclusive back in the day, and how they got, I can never remember the name of that fucking Mozart, Beethoven, whatever the hell RPG.
It's Sonata.
Oh, Internal Sonata.
Internal Sonata.
These games were good, but at the same time, it's the Japanese relationships and Sony's Japanese-centric nature is bearing fruit for them now, because the Japanese development scene isn't necessarily coming back, but it's changing in a way that is making it more palatable, I think, once again, for Western audiences. And so that's what you're getting Nier Automata. You're getting Ni no Kuni 2, which is going to be a significant exclusive. Ni no Kuni, people forget, on PS3, if games were counted on a by SKU basis on NPD, would have charted when it came out. That's an incredible thing for a game like that, in which it's not even, the name's literally not even fucking translated. And it would have charted on NPD, which is an amazing kind of thing. And Ni no Kuni 2 is going to do very well. We're forgetting that Dragon Quest is on PlayStation and Nintendo, but has no relationship with Microsoft. We're forgetting that it is strange that Final Fantasy at one point was never on Xbox, and when
Final Fantasy VII Remake comes out, it'll be first on.
Right, exactly, because there's no Phil Spencer's doing a great job. The nature of the console and the way we looked at it under previous tutelage is being changed and reworked. I just think that's a lost generation for them. It reminds me of the original Xbox. The people have to remember the original Xbox was really only alive for 4 years and then completely dead and was killed. And some say prematurely, but they did it to get a new console out early that I think actually set the stage and set the tenor for what would happen for the next 10 years. And what I'm curious about with Scorpio is that I still think clearly it's going to be a new console, and it'll be fully backwards compatible, I'm sure, but there are going to be games that are made just for it unless they get the cost way down and stuff like that. And I think that's the plan the entire time. And maybe they're going to do the same kind of thing. I never count Xbox out and never count Microsoft out because they have funds and knowledge, and they do have good relationships with Western developers. But they have to start cultivating and figuring out what they're going on, because it seems like they have a bit of an identity crisis with their publishing arm too. Because again, as I criticized in the past, their exclusives aren't even exclusive anymore. So now you have a problem of like, well, why would you even need an Xbox? You can criticize Sony all you want and say, well, you'd rather play on a PC or whatever, but you're not going to play Bloodborne on a PC, and you're not going to play Uncharted 4 on a PC, or Horizon, or Gran Turismo, or Days Gone, or Detroit, or any of those games. You're only going to play them on PS4. It seems like Microsoft doesn't really quite know what to do. And this goes back into a deeper problem with the way the console came out and was launched. And I don't think they could have ever recovered, no matter how smart Phil Spencer is. They were left at a significant disadvantage, which is a shame because the machine's good and there are great games on it. But with this whole thing with Platinum, I think Platinum Games is in trouble, and I think that I'll be interested to see what kind of deals they're able to ink in the next 18 months, considering their very rocky relationship with Activision in terms of quality, and clearly their completely inept relationship with Microsoft, in which they spent 4 years and untold tens of millions of dollars on a game that will never see the light of day.
Ladies and gentlemen, the final topic of the day, brought to you by you over on Patreon. Shout out to you, Steven Insler, once again, Patreon producer of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. And also, thank you all for supporting us. These are the thank yous for December. Patreon
Kevin
users
didn't like that. Kevin didn't like the announcement of that.
.com/kindoffunnygames.
Kevin
They pay your bills, Kevin.
Well, it was on the...
You hate Patreon, kids?
It was on, but we forgot to do it for GOG
Yeah.
yesterday, and I forgot to ask Nick to make it. Locked.
Should we wait till next week?
Yeah.
Next week, thank you to Patreon users over on
Erase it.
patreon.com/kindoffunnygames.
Just put question marks.
Anyways, you can leave your questions on kindoffunny.com/gamescast topic, just like my dude, Andrew Taylor did. You want to know what Andrew Taylor had to say, Greg?
Yeah, I do.
What are some of the smaller indie games that we know of that you're excited for? Any Vita exclusives? Greg, how does Patapon make you feel?
Patapon makes me feel amazing. I can't wait to get Patapon. Can't wait for there to be a release date. Can't wait to platinum it. Can't wait to play it nonstop for the rest of my life.
Smaller games you're looking forward to.
I mean, the big one, the smaller one that I think you'll agree with is Emily is Away.
That's
2.
on my list. Damn it, you stole it from me. I thought
It's
I was gonna
Emily
have
is Away
something
2,
good.
right? Is what
Emily
they're
is
calling
Away
it.
2, yeah.
T-O-O.
Early 2017.
Ooh, come
Yeah.
on. You fucking kidding me?
Can't wait for that Let's Play.
Another I Am Adventure? Get on the instant messenger, see what's up. I'm stoked about that.
For those of you that don't know what Emily is Away is.
I mean, it's a game we did a Let's Play for. It's a simulation. It's a step back in time where you're using AOL Instant Messenger to talk to this girl, Emily. And so she says stuff, and then you have to pick your response. And it's 1, 2, or 3, but you have to still type it out what it would be or whatever. Like you start typing, and then it makes it feel like you're really doing it. And me and Tim started the Let's Play totally joking. It was like a 45-minute game too. You want to replay it for different endings, different, how does she respond to this or that or the other thing. But it's just sitting there talking. You pick your buddy icon, but to hear the buddy list and have the door open, the door close, and the I am noise and the away messages and the little quotes in your thing. It was like, it started as a joke and then it got super serious of like, we felt like we were back.
I mean, by the end of it, we were so invested.
Go watch that Let's Play.
My favorite thing about it is that in addition to having the buddy icons and having your profile and being able to look at your buddy list and read other people's profiles and get kind of the story of the world, it takes place over a couple of years, and those years being from like 2001 to 2006.
Yeah.
When your character goes from like high school and then into college.
Yeah, it's like your senior year or whatever, and then it's your freshman year of college, and so on and forth.
It's awesome. And then your buddy icons, they change every year based on like what
bands are happening,
out. So it's like in like 2005, it's like Eminem's Encore that you could do. I'm like, this is fucking awesome.
It was fucking rad. It was amazing. So I can't wait to see what the second one is about. Similar to it, they say, not a different Emily.
Supposedly, it's going to be different Emily. Which
I hope there's better endings or different endings.
Yeah, I was the problem.
Because even remember, like our whole thing was like we did. Fuck, what if we did this? And we went and like find out. You're like, oh. Same thing.
It
but
all
whatever.
ends in the same place.
Whatever,
but anyway,
whatever.
great experience. And also check out the Let's Play we did, because it is one of my favorite videos I think we've ever made. Just because we went from being so like, oh, this is cool, to just being enthralled by it. What about you, Call?
The two games that come to mind from an independent lens is the first one's Cosmic Star Heroine, which I've been talking about for a long time. It was supposed to come out last summer and then pushed to the fall, I think. And I don't know what the nature of it is now. It's by a small studio called Z-Boyd. It is Japanese. It is a Western role playing game, but in the Japanese style. It seems to take a lot from Chrono Trigger. It also seems to take a lot from Phantasy Star, the old Genesis Master System Phantasy Star games. I feel like that game looks phenomenal. I can't wait to play it. Everything stops when that game comes into my hands. I played it for the first time at PSX in 2014 before we left IGN, and I was completely enamored with it. I just thought it was brilliant, and I really, really am looking forward to it. And I wish they would just finish it, but take your time if that's what you need, and obviously it is. The other game that comes to mind is our friend Dan Adelman's represented game, Chasm. Yes. Chasm is a procedurally generated Metroidvania, and it just looks fantastic, and I'm really, really, really super stoked about it. And I actually just talked to Dan today about that and other games, so really, really excited about that. There are a lot of independent games that are coming out, but those are the two that I think are most exciting on my list right now. And again, I use that term lightly because they have publisher relationships and stuff, obviously.
Of course. Night in the Woods is coming up soon. That's February 21st, I think is the release.
What's that?
Side-scrolling move around. It's an exploration game. It's described to me when they've tried to get us to go play it a bunch of times when they come through for GC or at PSX or whatever. But you're playing as like a cat, but he's like a human. You know what I mean? And like going through, like it's like cartoony characters or whatever. Okay. Like just characters look like that. And but it's like described as like Gone Home, as you're trying to piece together the story as you go. I don't know if it's 2017. I haven't heard an update, but Apartment, that game we did another Let's Play for about all the different stories happening in that apartment building. I would hope that's this year. I talked to Robin, I believe, right, the developer at PAX, the last PAX, so PAX Prime up there or whatever. And it's one of those things where they all have real jobs. They're doing it their off time, and I'm looking forward to that game a lot. And then there was another one that's now going to slip away that I had for a second. It's gone. I'll come back to you with it if I remember it.
Yeah, the two other ones for me that are kind of not, they're in that weird indie or the not indie section. Go for it.
Y2K, a post modern RPG. I've been waiting for that one for fucking ever, and it should be this year.
Our Cuphead and the new Shovel Knight DLC. This one, so there was Spectre Knight. No, Spectre Knight's the one coming up. I'm stoked about that. Spectre Knight, my favorite.
Plague Knight was the first one.
Yeah. Plague Knight, I didn't really like.
Might be going to see them soon, so we'll have more information on that. Yeah, it looks awesome. I didn't like the Plague Knight DLC at all. It just felt off to me. I remember when we played it, we tried to do a Let's Play of it way long time ago, and it just doesn't feel right, which is a shame because Shovel Knight's so fucking good. I wish that they would kind of just move on. But my assumption is that they have, and we'll find out more about that soon. But
it sounds like they're doing a lot more for this too.
Yeah, they are.
King's Knight DLC, but
they've scaled, and I don't think that they're going to marinate forever on the original Shovel Knight. I think their original goal was to do a 16-bit and then a 64-bit one, and so we'll see, and we'll see what happens.
That's awesome.
Is Tacoma this year?
So bad.
I think
it should be, right? It feels like
it's not really
an appropriate time.
Sure, that's where it always gets weird, right?
All right, next question from Ken Landelfeld. How will the illustrious Konami celebrate Metal Gear's 30th anniversary? Do anniversaries matter anymore?
They do sometimes. They don't other times. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of problems with the way Capcom's been treating Mega Man, which I think
are you one of those people?
I am, but it's its 30th anniversary, and this starts a celebration of the 30th anniversary. It was similar to the 25th anniversary of Mega Man when they released like Street Fighter Cross Mega Man or whatever it was, which was basically just a game someone made, and then someone at Capcom was like, "Oh shit, Mega Man's birthday is coming up," and then they just basically were like, "We won't ask you to shut this game down. Just let's put it out together." And then with the 30th anniversary, because obviously Rockman was released in '87, was these iOS and Android ports of the two trilogies, basically from NES, and they're apparently fucking awful. So they matter. It's just not. It matters to fans, and fans expect more, and then it seems like a lot of people once again are asleep at the switch. And Konami, fuck Konami, who cares what they do? They're not the company that everyone thinks that they're going to turn back into, and I don't know that they're ever going to be that company again. They don't care. They don't care about Castlevania. They don't care about Contra. They don't care about Metal Gear.
Oh, they care about Metal Gear. They care about that 4-player co-op thing where you run around and shoot shit.
It's ridiculous.
So that's probably what they'll do. It's just Metal Gear Survive. There's all these rumors of the Snake Eater remake. I'm like, you guys fucking stupid?
That's all being pulled from that pachinko machine where they have like the super HD, it was up earlier, boss, confronting the boss.
But real talk, what the fuck's the story of that? Why does it look so good? Why did they put that much work into these renders?
The pachinko machine makes so much money for them.
That's just so weird. I don't understand why those visuals at a pachinko machine are
going hand in hand.
Yeah, because that game that looks fucking awesome.
Sure. People who want to play those in Japan know the source material. They love the source material. They want to see it look awesome.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Blows my damn mind.
I'll blow your head.
Blow it good. Blow that shit good. Outlaw Reaver says, hey guys, want to know your thoughts on GameStop's publishing label Game Trust signed developers. Here's the breakdown. Insomniac Games, who did Song of the Deep, Frozen Byte, who did the Trine series, Ready at Dawn, who did The Order 1886, and Tequila Works, who did Deadlight and Outrime.
Now, quick side note. I don't appreciate this question. This is an old GameScoop Podcast Beyond thing where this is a double dipper. This was on the list for possible PS I Love You questions this week. Didn't make the cut, so it doesn't matter. But I had it on. It was on the docket, though. In a universe where Colin didn't poop forever, we read that question.
Got it. Yeah. What's your answer?
I mean, I loved Song of the Deep. I think they're doing. It's an interesting thing. It's a cool idea. GameStop, as we talk about the digital future, needs to figure out what the fuck the next 10 years looks like for them. And so the idea of like, all right, cool, we have all this money, we have a distribution arm. This is an all right solution. Why not go through and let's do games if you want physically, you get them exclusively here. And that's the whole thing with Song of the Deep, right? Where again, cart in front of the horse, like we always talk about, where hey, there's this new IP out, so now here's a toy and a T-shirt and this and that. Most of the time, probably blows up in people's face. But for Song of the Deep, a game that I really appreciated, when I finished that, I was like, fuck yeah, I do want a Marin, Funko Pop for my desk. And like they had shirts and they had all this different stuff. That only happens because GameStop's so in bed with them and has that money and has that arm to be like, cool, there's a whole bunch of cool shit for these cool games we're putting out over here.
And that's what's crazy about GameStop is I walked into one for the first time in a while over the break, and it's a hot topic now.
Yeah,
it's like they have more T-shirts and toys and Funko Pops and backpacks and cups and mugs and all this shit than they have games. It's crazy. Yeah, but I get it though. Like, good for them trying to adapt.
You got it right, and that's the whole thing. You can't knock them. They're out there hustling. They're doing something different. They're doing something cool. No one can say that Song of the Deep, all the other games on the list wouldn't exist without this. But it is all right. Cool. Here's money. Yeah. Go make this game that it maybe isn't for PlayStation or wouldn't be on Microsoft's radar. It's a cool idea and it's something different. And more power to them.
Anything to add, Cole?
No, I think GameStop's just trying to experiment with known developers by making small, cheap games and seeing what happens. I don't know that they're going to get the outcome that they want to get from a commercial standpoint until they choose to invest a lot of money into a game. And I can't imagine that Song for the Deep was made for any more than a few $1 million.
Sure.
So,
you figure though this has got to be the business play though, right? Let's start small. Let's do small games. Let's prove it's this team. I assume of Game Trust people at GameStop who are like, all right, let's do this. We make things. We can show the revenue model. We can show how we made this game, this IP a thing, and then we made this money on merchandise. So now let's go and try to make a AAA.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, that's clearly the idea, I think, but I don't know that they would have been misguided in just saying, like, let's make one big game with a big developer. And I understand that it seems almost like, in a way, with the studios that they have relationships with, that it's like a tryout.
Yeah.
Ready at Dawn is busy with a lot of things, apparently with VR games. I wouldn't be surprised if they're working with Sony again. Obviously, Insomniac's busy with a ton of shit. Tequila Works, who knows what the fuck they're doing. But it seems like it's like a little trial kind of situation, but I don't know that they're going to get the outcome until they choose to invest the money. You spend money to make money. And so,
but I think
like if you're investing, like Deformers, for instance, which is an interesting game, it's not going to sell anything.
Yeah.
And what is your expect? Like Deformers isn't just not going to sell. It's not going to sell. No one's going to care. And I can just tell you that now. I can tell you that when we played at GameStop Expo. I can tell you that fucking 6 months before that. And so it's like, well, why then?
I think you nailed it though. I think it's experience. I think they're doing something they've never done before. This reminds me of when I started the YouTube channel that would become this, right? Like Colin, or Ask Colin, what do we call it? Conversation with Colin and Oration were not the shows I wanted to do. I had an idea for the show I fucking wanted to do, but I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to publish. I didn't know anything. So it was like, well, fuck, I'll do these shows that I don't care as much about, or there's not as much put into in terms of something going wrong or right. I think that's it. Right now, you do this. I don't know if it's so much about how much money you make as much as like, well, let's learn the ins and outs of it and let's figure out what does work and doesn't work so that when we do take $10 million and drop it on something, we know a little bit of what we're getting into.
Tastings says, hey guys, I was on the Kind of Funny Facebook group last month whining about never having a question read on any of the shows. Then, like a one-winged angel from heaven, Tim replied and told me to ask a question in 2017. He'd read it on the Gamescast. I'm here, motherfucker.
You should have just told him, ask a good question.
Angel. That's not good. That's not a good thing. A one-winged angel.
Sephiroth's cool. I'll take it.
But he's going to kill you.
Like a badass. That's what I do. I kill people. Right, Kevin? Mm-hmm. Why don't the big three console companies steal from each other more often? I started thinking about this when I was playing Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch. It was basically the Pokemon game I always wanted. It was on a PlayStation home console. Why don't they steal Zelda, Mario Kart, or 3D Mario games from Nintendo? Steal Gears of War and Halo from Xbox. Steal The Last of Us, Infamous, and Resogun from Sony. Thanks for reading my question. You guys are kind of awesome.
They do. They steal from each other all the time.
I mean, I think, well, some of those examples, like Mario Kart, like everyone's done a kart racer.
Yeah, Mod Nation and Little Big Planet Karting were both attempts to do that.
PlayStation All-Stars.
PlayStation All-Stars was stealing Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
You know, Killzone was its own response to Halo. Directly, Sony wanted their own big shooter. I think they were way behind on that particular genre. I don't think they understood how that genre was migrating to console. So these things happen constantly. The open world games, I think Infamous is a response to Crackdown. I think that like there are things that are happening in that respect. I already see that happening. And then third parties do that too. 3D Dot Heroes is a complete rip.
I was going to say, you have third parties getting in there and filling a lot of gaps too, where it's like, well, why does Sony need to go worry? Well, I guess they're making an open world game, but you know what I mean? Like, all right, there's a million of them out there.
Actually, I do think it's interesting though, because there's certain games that I'm a little shocked we're not seeing more direct competition to, like Uncharted. Tomb Raider and Microsoft's partnership for Rise of the Tomb Raider is, I guess, kind of a step in that direction. But it is a little shocking that there's not a game of that kind of movie experience quality that Microsoft tries to do with any of their like main flagship titles, instead doing things like Scalebound or whatever.
Sure, cost money. I mean, that's the thing, is that you know, it can't be understated how much Uncharted 4 and The Last of Us 2 are going to and are costing Sony. I mean, these are expensive games, and you have to have no disrespect to any of the other studios that are working on a lot of these games. Microsoft has no studio that's anywhere near Naughty Dog's talent. You also need a studio that can be able to do that. If Sony asked any of their other studios to make a game like The Last of Us, they wouldn't be able to do it. You know, it's just not. It's not possible.
And I think that's further going
2017.
down the train of thought I was having, where like, why don't more people copy Mario is a question I often ask myself. It's like, why doesn't PlayStation have a game that's like Mario? Ratchet and Clank, I'd say, is the closest thing in terms of being a quality platformer, but it's not really a platformer. It's, you know, it's also kind of a third-person shooter in a lot of ways, and it's not Mario, you know. But I think the reason is, like, Mario's Mario, and Mario's at such a high level that you can't compete with that. And even if you could compete from a quality perspective, you still don't have that recognition, and nobody's buying those type of games on that level, so it's not even worth really investing there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that like there's certain ecosystems that cultivate certain amounts of talent or certain expectations, and there's just no expectation for that on Sony. I think that's why the original Killzone was not a good game, because they were like, well, we need a shooter, and it's like, well, but you don't need a shooter, you need a good shooter, you know. And I think that's what they ended up getting with Resistance, which I think was their attempt to do that again, but which I think was way closer to Halo in a lot of ways genetically. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, we had, you know, Little Big Planet, for instance, was in its own way. I don't like Little Big Planet at all, but Little Big Planet in its own way was a harbinger of things to come with things like Mario Maker. It's just that, like, we didn't have, because it was like, you know, a side scroll, you make your own stage, it's a little weird, a little share it and have a good time, whatever. But like, it's just, that's not what people play PlayStation for. If that was on Nintendo a long time ago and they had their own IP and stuff like that, it would have been bigger sooner. It's just, I think that there are expectations that are different, but you know, great artists steal, and these people are stealing from each other all the time, and there's no shame in that. I've said over and over again that for the most part, a shooter should feel like Call of Duty. You should just take that. It's okay. Make your own story and your own world and your own art, but it should feel like Call of Duty.
Or
and
Halo.
every platform should feel like Mario.
Play like Halo. Real Radic 13 says, is it possible that Crystal Dynamics is now moving on from Tomb Raider and working on a new Legacy of Kain?
Oh.
Back in November 2015, Crystal Dynamics senior designer Michael Brinker said that there's a 50-50 chance of a new game in the series developed by them. He goes on to say that there are in-house developers in the studio who really want it to happen, and also with the leaked Shadow of the Tomb Raider rumored to be developed by Square Enix Montreal, and the main writer of the Tomb Raider reboot series leaving the franchise, does this all point to Crystal Dynamics developing a new Legacy of Kain?
Points to them making something else. I don't know that it necessarily points to them making a Legacy of Kain. I don't think that would be a good idea.
Yeah, it seems like the time has passed for that.
I was going to say, I feel like that's a step backwards. It's similar when we talk about Jack and Daxter, when we're talking about Naughty Dog. Like, no, go make something else, do something else. Especially take all the lessons you've learned from Tomb Raider.
Take some Eastern IP. Like that's the thing that Square Enix is just refusing to do, which is just to like they have a global network of studios that can borrow from each other pretty openly, and I'd like to see someone like Crystal make a fucking Final Fantasy spinoff, or see what you can do with some of these IP that they own. If I were associated in any way with Square Enix, I'd go over there and I'd be like, what kind of obscure ass IP can we fucking dig up, you know, and try to do something with, because they have a ton of them, you know. And so that's what I would hope some of these studios are working on. So I don't think I think it indicates. I think that the Square Enix Montreal rumor of the Tomb Raider thing, which I think is obviously real, indicates that Crystal Dynamics is just going to make something else. But I don't know that it's necessarily Legacy of Kain. I don't think that would be a good idea for them to do. Not a shitting on Legacy of Kain. It's just that they want to sell games, and not for nothing, the Tomb Raider games did not take off.
Eidos Montreal.
I'm sorry, Eidos Montreal.
Just keeping you honest.
You know, Rise of the Tomb Raider, I think, was a disappointment for them. And not from a quality standpoint, because it's fucking great. But I don't think it sold very well on Xbox One. I don't think it sold very well on PS4. And I think that they have to make something big. You know,
I mean, well, what sucks the most about Tomb Raider and Rise of the Tomb Raider is that those games would have been big if they were all at once. Let's release it on all the platforms at once. But this exclusivity deal that I understand taking because it's money in your pocket, and especially for the first one, you would think that it was going to go the other way. Man, did that fuck this franchise. It's so great. It's such a fucking great... God, those games, 1 and 2, are so fucking good. And they are criminally underplayed.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Thank you all for joining us. We will see you next week. And I'm sure we'll be talking on Nintendo Switch because at the time this was recorded, we haven't seen the presentation yet. It happens tomorrow. I'm very excited.
But by the time people will see
I'm going
this...
to talk to you in a pre-Switch world.
And by the time people see this, you will have played the Switch and Kevin will be dead of pizza overdose.
So much pizza. Till next time, I love you.
I didn't like that. That was...